On the night the generator coughed like an old drummer clearing his throat, a junior administrator in a neat tie waved a hand as if shooing smoke. "Madam Nurse, your shift ended," he said. "We can manage. Go." His name was Mr. Dankwa, and his badge had learned to walk faster than his judgment. He spoke in the corridor of Yaf, Amanfro General Nurse, where fluorescent lights hum hymns to exhaustion and the floor smells of bleach and prayers. The nurse he dismissed wore navy scrubs and a scarf tied like a quiet promise. Her name was Ama Serwa. She had hands that remembered the weight of newborns and the angle of a sternum that needed courage. She glanced at the wall clock and then at the oxygen manifold, sighing like a tired goat. "I will go," she said calmly, "when the night decides it is able to carry itself." The talking drum in the porter's lodge, disguised as a mop bucket, muttered, "Watch this night. Watch this badge. Watch the woman who knows where the hospital S bones are buried and which ones must be raised." A week earlier, the hospital board had signed papers naming Ama Serwa the crisis lead, keeper of drills, mother of checklists, shepherd of oxygen, translator between sirens and sleep. They announced it with a photocopied memo nobody read, because the canteen had jollof that day and Rice Outranks paper at noon. Only the generator, the oxygen plant, and the night shift registered the promotion. They recognized in her a person who greets machines the way good neighbors greet elders, by name, with respect, and with repair in her pocket. Tonight, the corridor wore a thin sweat. Somewhere outside, thunder argued with its wife. Inside, a monitor beeped the way crickets gossip when the moon is late. The junior administrator dismissed the only person who could make the dark behave. A tale, let it be told. If this story reaches your ward, let the drum carry it farther. Likely too, to keep the corridor lit. Share, we see, with someone who has been waved away and returned with a plan and bis commenter with your Steel City Plus time. So the next part finds the right bedside without waking the wrong patient. The dismissal, the beep, and the night that had other plans, listener, bring your ears as one brings a tray to a crowded ward. Amanfro General Hospital was a box of stubborn light in a city that sleeps with one eye open. The children's ward counted dreams in milligrams. The maternity theatre measured courage in sutures. The night shift was a delicate bench. Remove one leg, and the others learn to wobble. Ama Serwa finished handing over to the incoming nurse, cataloguing lives like beads. Bed 3, wheezing but eating. Bed 7, IV line replaced. Bed 11, mother anxious, baby fine, teach skin to skin again. She signed her name with a pen that had written more dawns than poems. She bent to pick up a yellow folder, fallen under the trolley, a folder that contained the oxygen rounds sheet for the high dependency unit. Enter Mr. Dankwa. His tie had a pattern that believed in geometry more than humanity. He was recently appointed Night Duty Coordinator. He loved clipboards the way some men love proof that they are not invisible. Behind him drifted Security Officer Atto, a tall man whose flashlight enjoyed celebrity. "Madam Nurse," Dankwa said, peering over his clipboard, "you have completed your shift. We must control overtime. Kindly vacate the ward." Sayoma straightened and regarded him the way one regards a cat scolding a lion for yawning. She smiled with her eyes, because mouths get tired of repeating lessons. "Are you controlling overtime?" she asked gently, "or increasing emergencies?" Dankwa chuckled in the register of men who are not used to being parables. "We have adequate cover. Policy is policy. Go and rest." A monitor in Pava Bed 5 chose this moment to beep the way a pot lid rattles when the soup remembers fire. Amma crossed to the bedside, adjusted the nasal prongs with a tenderness that shamed the room into quiet. The patient's chest settled. The monitor returned to civilized conversation. "See?" Dankwa said to Atto, mistaking coincidence for competence. "All is well." Alma set the prongs, checked the oxygen flow meter, then glanced at the haste oxygen manifold gauge in the alcove. She had learned long ago to watch the hospital the way a mother watches a toddler near stairs. The needle sat in the fat part of comfort, but its tremble made a promise the night might try to keep. "Sir," she said, still calm, Has the generator done its evening boast? My dear, the engineer signed, Danqua said, waving the clipboard as if it were a wand that turned questions into obedience. All is well, Amma nodded. Then allow me to sit in the nurse's station for 1 hour. If nothing calls my name, I will leave. Policy is policy, Danqua repeated, because when sense fails, repetition volunteers. He glanced at Atto, whose flashlight wanted to be helpful. Escort, madam. Atto shifted, uncomfortable. He knew the topography of nights and the rivers that run through them. He had carried fathers who pretended they were chairs. He did not like escorting competence away from corridors, but he liked salaries and the way children eat school fees even more. Madam, please, he said softly, let me walk you. Amma lifted the bus, yellow folder, and tucked it under her arm like a child resistant to nap. I will go, she said, but first I will greet the oxygen room. Excuse me? Danqua blinked. Machines are like elders, Amma replied. They resent being ignored. She walked past him down the short corridor to the oxygen plant. The room was a cold throat breathing. The CAPSA unit. Throbbed, valves clicking their little mathematics. She placed 3 fingers on the panel, not to fix, to greet. The gauge held steady, prideful. She nodded and turned to the Chico generator room. A security lock protested. Atto, already complicit in wisdom, produced the key without being asked. Inside the generator sat like a muscular goat. Amma smelled the air, a hint of diesel sweat, too sharp, a note of beltware, and crouched to read the maintenance log. The last oil change had been on time, the battery replacement not yet done. She frowned. It likes to boast before midnight, she murmured. Then it remembers its age. Madam, Danqua said from the doorway, this is not within your scope. The night is within my scope, she said. It reaches into every room. He rolled his eyes. Let us not dramatize. He ushered her toward the exit with polite force. Atto, please. They reached the front door. Rain began like gossip. A few drops, then brave ones, then a squad. Thunder clapped its hands twice. The lobby lights flickered like a mind reconsidering a lie. The city grid coughed, sighed, died. The generator woke, grunted, and shouldered the hospital. Lights stuttered back to life. Relief did a small dance in the hall. See? Danqua said, triumphant. All is... The generator coughed again. Once, twice. It stalled. Darkness laid a hand over the hospital's mouth. Then the backup battery lights woke like fireflies who know when to volunteer. The monitors in the ward began a chorus of beeps that sounded too much like babies crying in a language adults should have learned by now. Amma did not run. She moved. The way water moves when the river remembers its path. Atto, she said, call Tung Engineer Ni. Now, use your name. Tell him the crisis lead says, bring the belt kit and our battery and our starter spray. Danqua, collect all available nurses and tell them, oxygen rationing protocol. Turn off tumiwa non-essential downloads. Shut samiwaka central ACWA. Keep smote niku ka. Theatre vents. Oxygen plant. HD unit. And to lab fridge boon. She turned to the dark and spoke to it like a child caught stealing. Not tonight. What authority? Danqua stammered, trying to herd his badge back into adequacy. Amma reached into the Mutki cabinet, pulled a laminated card that slept behind other cards nobody uses until the world insists. Incident Command. She hung it around her neck, and to the front desk staff said, Activate code Baobab. The receptionist, surprised to find old drills sharpening themselves, hit the PA. Code Baobab, incident command to the nurses' station. All unit heads. In the ward, the night blinked, changed its clothes, and went to work. A tale. Let it be told. Incident command did not arrive. Amma became it. She slid into a seat as if it had been carved for this hour. She opened the yellow folder. Inside, oxygen rounds, backup vent allocation, triage tags, a map of the hospital, with the electrical sub-panels marked in red and mercy. She pointed. Arto, generator room, stay on phone with me, put me on speaker. Dankwa, switch off non-critical sub-panels, admin wing, conference rooms, outer corridors. Leave theater prep lights on low. Tell kitchen to move to cold service. Who gave you this authority? Dankwa forced the sentence through a throat that preferred posture to words. The board, Amma said without looking up. Last week. They gave me this badge too, but the printer jammed. Silence put its hand over his mouth better than he ever could. Phones began to ring with the manners of war. NICU. We have 4 on CPAP, 2 on oxygen. Maternity. 1 in second stage. Bring light. Emergency. Ambulance inbound. Road crash, 5 injured. Amma split herself like a fruit and handed pieces to everyone. NICU, we are coming with the manual resuscitators and the SEAL portable oxygen. Maternity, headlamps are in the B crash cart. Lower drawer. Midwife Afia's nose. Emergency, set up Haki we triagens at the entrance. I want you in red tags you and only if airway or hemorrhage. Everyone else waits on oxygen until we stabilize the plant. Otto's voice boomed from the generator room speaker. Engineer Nee reached. He says the starter motor wheel is sticky and the main belting is old. He's coming. He says to reduce load. We are reducing, Amma said. Bring the starter spray from the maintenance cage and the belt tensioner bar. Madam, Otto hesitated. You are not a mechanic, Amma finished for him, but you have hands and sense. The night will lend you one more hand. Borrow it. Dankwa hovered, deflating. What can I? Amma handed him a pen. You can become a scribe. Write everything. Time, action, reason. Later, you will make a report that feeds policy instead of shame. He took the pen the way a man takes a baby he did not plan for, and found he loved. Nurses arrived, some off-duty, hair wrapped in emergency scarves, flip-flops slapping like drums. They did not ask who was in charge. They looked at the person giving verbs to the night and recognized their captain. Amma assigned tasks with the economy of a midwife in a hurry. To Nick. She went first. The battery lights made shadows learn geometry. Tiny chests moved like small waves. We will keep them as C's, Amma said. She stationed an auxiliary nurse with a manual bag at each CPAP bed. Slow and steady. Watch the color, not just the number, ears before eyes. She returned to the manifold. The gauge had begun to tremble the way old men's hands tremble when they play drafts. She swore softly in Fante. Where is my plant operator? On his way, someone said. He was at prayer. Let him bring the prayer, she said. We will add wrenches. There were ambulances arrived, lights hot with self-importance. The paramedic shouted, 5 casualties like a market seller. Amma moved to triage and became gravity. Silence, she said. Ears on me. Red 1. Chest wound. Breathing. Red 2. Low blood pressure. Leg bleed. Tourniquet now. Yellow 3 and 4. Put them where they can watch others learn patience. Green 5. Sit for now and write me the plate number that ran. She touched foreheads like a priest who trusts medicine. Back at the generator, Engineer Nee arrived tucking his shirt in because dignity comes after speed. He glanced once at Amma, nodded once, and opened the beast. Starter, he grunted. Belt. Otto held the light with the reverence of a deacon. The starter got sprayed, casca the belt, levered. Reduce load more, Nee shouted. Amma's voice rode the PA like a horse that refuses to be spooked. All wards, kill decorative lights. Nurses' stations, switch to headlamps. Radiology, hold new scans. Theater, proceed with delivery. Escalate to spinal only if necessary. Lab, keep fridges closed, cold as a prayer. Thunder rolled. Rain hit the roof hard enough to confess. The city grid remained sulking. The hospital stood on its tendons, oxygen and will. A mother in maternity cried out the note that tells women other women are working. The baby came with a wet protest and went to breast, where politics cannot reach. Someone laughed. The corridor learned it remembered joy. Ready, Nii called. He cranked. The generator complained, attempted dignity, stuttered, caught, and held. Lights rolled back like surf returning to a beach that was starting to doubt the ocean. A small cheer went up and died politely because NICU was listening. Amma inhaled, then exhaled tasks. Rebalance loads, keep AC off, keep the oxygen plant on priority. Housekeeping, mop water fast. We do not love lawsuits. Dankwa wrote like a student who has discovered he can pass if he pays attention. He wrote times, decisions, names, reasons. He wrote the moment he realized policy is a bowl that must be filled with food, not slogans. He wrote, Amma took command. I followed. At S213 the oxygen plant whined, then settled into a confident hum. The gauge stopped pretending to faint. Amma touched the panel again, not superstitious, respectful. You and me, she whispered to the machine. We will grow old together, badly. At 02:45, the last triage patient moved to a bed with a bandaged leg that would later tell its own jokes. At 03:10, the mother in bed 11 slept in a chair while the baby forgot why crying exists. At 03:30, the generator purred like a big cat that knows the vet is watching. At 04:00, the city grid returned, with the sheepishness of a husband coming home too late with bread as apology. By 05:00, the night had turned its pockets out and produced nothing else. Amma sat finely, and the chair remembered it had always belonged to her. Mr. Dankwas approached with a face that had been wrung out by usefulness. He stood there, a man who has eaten a lesson and is deciding whether to digest publicly. He lifted his hand the way a boy lifts a tin roof to find a forgotten toy. He saluted. Not playfully, not in shabby imitation, he saluted the woman whose rank had slept under his nose in plain cloth. Then he did something rarer. He bowed his head. Madam, he said softly, I am learning the real rank of the night. It outranks my badge. Thank you for letting me sit this class. Amma smiled without triumph. Your real rank, Ifacum, she said, is porter of apologies and keeper of doors. Carry it well. The drum in the porter's lodge tapped once, content. The knight put down its tools and waited for shift change. A tale, let it be told. The after-action morning and the policy that learned to carry water. Morning arrived the way tea arrives, boiling, opinionated, useful. Matron Akosua gathered the team in the sod courtyard beneath a flamboyant tree that had earned its name. Coffee in plastic cups steamed like small chimneys. The after-action review sat on a wooden table, the yellow folder with fresh notes, the stop-load map. The triage tags turned into lessons. Flies auditioned for annoyance. A cleaner waved them away with a broom blessed by work. Begin, said Matron Akosua, whose voice could turn panic into a chair. Amma stood not to own the morning, but to hand it out. We lost no babies, she began. A sigh travelled the courtyard, stopped at a wall, and returned as gratitude. We delivered one new citizen with a loud opinion. We stabilized 5 crash cases. Generator failure duration. 27 minutes. Oxygen threat duration. 41 minutes. Response. Code Baobab activated in 3 minutes. Load shedding protocol effective. She lifted the reason board, a whiteboard that had been sulking in a storeroom for lack of crayons and esteem. She had written 5 lines on it. Introduce. State. Why. Ask first. Do. Write. This is our greet, ask, assist, Amma said. It applies to not everyone. Admin to nurse, nurse to porter, doctor to patient, security to visitor. Last night we saw what happens when policy greets before need. We nearly escorted competence out of the corridor. She looked at Dankwa, not unkindly. He stepped forward before shame could kick him from behind. Matron colleagues, he said, I made the first mistake. I saluted my clipboard, not the knight. I will write the policy memo myself and walk it to each unit. I will also sit at the bench when it is built. What bench? Asked the pharmacist, curious in the way pills never will be. The bench of night, Amma said. Carve on it. Care outranks badge. Anyone who forgets will sit 1 hour, not as punishment, as calibration. The courtyard chuckled. The mason from maintenance who lived for projects that made men behave rubbed his hands. I will find good Iroko, he promised. Engineer Ni hung back, fingernails still black with generator grammar. The plant, he said gruffly, needs a new belt, starter, and battery bank. Not on paper. In fact, if you like lights, buy them. If you like darkness, buy excuses. The administrator on duty, not Dankwa. His boss, Mrs. S.E. Bartels, as he nodded, having arrived with the smell of meetings. Budget will move, she said. We will redirect from no conference drapes to generator parts. We will buy a second manifold for oxygen. We will not wait for tenders to teach us poverty. Good, Amma said. Also, the oxygen rounds carded become oxygen prayers, hourly checks at night, signed by name, not scribbled initials that pretend to be alibis. Plant operators will call the crisis lead at the first tremble of a gauge. We will create a WhatsApp group that no one mutes. A junior doctor. House Officer Kojo, who had slept through the worst and woke to glory, cleared his throat. What about the crash cases? 2 sutured, 1 pinned, 1 observed, 1 discharged with advice to stop making cars their pastors, said a nurse Lydia, who had arms like sentence finishers. Next question? The courtyard laughed. Sun rehearsed its high notes. Security Officer Atto raised a hand. My people, he said, we need torches that do not retire during crises, and radios, and a protocol where security carries messages without playing PT. Broken telephone. He held up his old flashlight, which had attended more dramas than the theatre. This one loves gossip, it hates detail. Approved, said Mrs. Bartels briskly. We will buy radios before we buy the flower pots, so. Let us add 1 more, Amma said. During Khan Code Baobab, the front gate Khan becomes a river. No cars park, no visitors argue about rules. Atto, you and your team will learn to wave cars like worship leaders. Police will get a call before we beg. Ambulance corridor. Must be respected like an elder. We will mark it in yellow, not the pale yellow that paint sellers use to lie. The stubborn yellow. The recorder scribbled, eyes hungry. Then Amma did what leaders who distrust applause do. She distributed credit he'd like ORS in a collar award. Matron held us steady. Ni kept promise with steel. Lydia taught triage to learn manners. Ato's hands found the right spanners. Dankwa's pen made us visible to tomorrow. She pointed to the sky. And the clouds decided to shout without leaking too much into our roofs. We thank their mercy. Let us also admit our almost ewer, Matron said. We almost lost to CPAP pressure. We almost lost the Kier lab freezer hue. We almost believed kin policy more than heal people. Let us repent in resources. They dispersed to duties, leaving the bench proposal on the table, where gossip could chew it into inevitability. That afternoon, the hospital board cast convened in their long room with portraits that had never survived night shift. They listened to Amma's report. With the attention of people who have discovered relevance waiting in their lobby, Mrs. Bartels and summarized budgets louder than usual so that money would hear and stop pretending to be shy. The board chair. An old surgeon who could tie a knot while quoting poetry no one has read cleared his throat. Madame Serrois, he said, you were dismissed last night. I was, Amma said, not smiling. You did not go. I did not, she said, smiling now. The chair removed his glasses and cleaned them on a handkerchief that had buried colleagues. Then let us make a policy that prevents men from escorting wisdom into the night. From now on, the crisis lead us outranks. The hour. You may stay when your shadow tells you the hospital will need you. We will also approve the bench of night, carve its proverb deep. We will fund starter motors like we fund conference tea. And we will add this, said a board member who rarely spoke because her voice always came with a bill. Greet, ask, assist is now letterhead, every badge. She looked at Danqua, who sat with the humility of a man practicing a new religion. Especially admin, he stood. I request to say a thing. Say, the chair granted like a gavel learning to be a drum. I did not recognize ranker that wore plain scrubs, Danqua said. I saw a woman and thought over time. I did not see the keeper of ladders mooks in the hospital, the one who carries us across broken power and arrogant procedure. I will salute as rank as the service is, not as dur font sizen. And I will sit first on the forebench of Nightdown when it arrives. So recorded, the secretary said, pen smiling. The chair nodded toward the open window where the flamboyant tree was showing off shamelessly. Meeting adjourned, someone called the mason. 2 days later, under the flamboyant, the bench of night was unveiled. Quabena the mason, not the firefighter from another tale, a cousin to Wood, had carved the back high and the seat wide, the letters bit deep. Care Outranks badge. On the armrest, a small carving of a stethoscope, wrapped around a torch. The first to sit were not offenders, but volunteers. Matron Akosua, who knows leadership tastes better when eaten humble. Engineer Nees, who wanted to test the bench's balance. Atto, who said the wood needed to know the weight of security. Danqua, who arrived with a pad and wrote, Rank is a tool shelf. Last night I stood on it. Patients' relatives read the proverb, nodded, and adjusted their attitudes the way one adjusts a wrapper, quickly, with dignity. A child traced the letters with a finger that would one day hold a scalpel or a mop or a budget. Each tool will need this bench. As the week turned, Code Baobab's Herus drilled with style. Radios crackled words that did not waste air. The idioxygen rounds, sheet filled with legible names. The generator purred like it had learned fear. The board printed posters. Greet, ask, assist. In English, Twi, Ga, Yu, Hausa. The canteen added, crisis soup. More pepper, more ginger, because nutrition outruns meetings when it wants to. And the town found out. The market women came to see the bench, to test whether it could carry the weight of a quarrel. They settled, argued, and rose laughing. The radio station invited Amma. She went only because Aunt Matron might promise to sit in the studio with her and kick her ankle if she began to apologize for being excellent. On air, Amma said, Hospitals are villages. In villages we greet before we harvest. A caller, voice young, eager to rearrange the world, asked, Madam, what is your real rank? Amma laughed, the kind that makes infection control relax. Mother of two, auntie to many, nurse by license. Crisis leaders by paper. Keeper of beeps, by habit. Pick any. They all answer when the lights go. The city listened. Some changed, some didn't. But the bench remained like a proverb that refuses to be fashionable. A tale, a tale. Let it be told. The storm drill, the real salute, and the new definition of night rainy season arrived with muscle. Clouds gathered like aunties at a naming ceremony, chatty, generous, ready to cry if necessary. The meteorological office sent a bulletin. Storm expected, flood risk high, power instability likely. The hospital's crisis group didn't wait to be surprised. They were scheduled, their surprise. We drill tonight, Amma said. If the storm joins, we will call it theatre. At 19 Chai, Code Baobab Jitriksha was announced for practice. The incident command to our table arrived like a kiosk. Radios charged. The generator yawned to show it was awake this time. The oxygen plant preened, its gauge steady like a head of state that knows which elders to greet. Rolls by counts were pinned. Incident commander, Amma Serwa, operations. ER nurse Lydia, logistics. Engineer, Ni, safety. Matron Akosua liaison. Security officer, Atto admin, scribe. Mr. Danqua. They walked the hospital with clipboards that had stopped pretending to be ornamental. They checked sub-panels, exit lights, ambulance corridor, NICU battery. They rehearsed greet, ask, assist at every door, so that tone would be muscle memory, not a costume for visitors. At 21:13, the storm volunteered for realism. Rain hammered the roof like drummers who had been waiting in the dark for permission. The city grid tested its commitment to existence and took a break. The generator woke on the first try. Someone cheered and then apologized to the generator for doubting its faith. The Sartre brought in 2 real cases: motorcycle slide, market woman bitten by panic. The ward did what rehearsed people do. They joined competence. "This is how we like our crises," Lydia muttered, "smaller than our plan." Then the radio coughed. Ambulance inbound. House collapse in Saki line. 3 injured, 1 unconscious. The drill stopped being pretend. Practice did what practice is supposed to do, vomit muscles into the moment. Amma took the radio. Triage at the gate. Red tags if airway or bleed requiring pressure. Everyone else watches. Lydia, prepare bay. Ni, confirm oxygen priority. Atto, clear the corridor. Dankwa, timestamp everything. Matron, family management area. Use the chapel. The chaplain likes relevance. The ambulance arrived, mud painting its sides in angry grammar. Out came Koma Childehu, a grandmother of Hamanma, clutching his own complaint. Amma's fingers relearned the continent of faces. She tilted the child's head, listened, breathed with him, handed him to a nurse with eyes shaped like patience. She pressed the grandmother's belly and heard the truth. She told the man with no visible injury that he would be seen after the visible need stopped shouting. He threatened his uncle's title. Atto escorted the title to a chair and taught it to read a reason card. In the middle of life doing push-ups, a van with sirens quas that had learned to sing in kaiks rolled in. The regional health directorate had sent observers for the drill and had landed in the storm's lap. They entered with pens sharp enough to shave. They took notes, expecting to feed on mistakes like vultures on laziness. They found few scraps. They found greetings at every demand. They found reasons spoken before commands. They found assist, replacing argue. They scribbled more slowly, embarrassed by the paucity of complaints. At 23:40, the storm sent Thunder to shout one last time and then retreated to plan for other towns. The hospital stayed awake until it was sure pride would not sneak in and undo learning. At midnight, the drill ended itself. People clapped, not because theatre had concluded, but because practice had survived reality. The observers huddled with Matron and Amma. "Your protocol," one said carefully, "is a little too kind." "Kind is faster," Amma replied. "Cruelty requires a paperwork." They did not laugh, they wrote. The next week, the ministry tool invited a Manfro general to a ceremony at the Civic Center to present best practices. The director spoke the way people speak when they are in love with microphones. He called names, he called numbers, he called for applause when applause was feeling shy. Then he called Amma Serwas to present. She wore her navy scrubs and scarf because strategy is also uniform. She presented Greet, Ask, Assist. Code Baobab. Bench of Night. She presented the budget lines. They moved from vanity to survival. She presented a photo of the generator belt cars like a newborn and got away with it because the belt now represented 100 lives that did not learn to be statistics. At the end, she said, "Hospitals are villages." In villages, rank is who carries water first, not who speaks last. The hall did not know whether to clap or change. It chose both. It clapped while changing 2 degrees closer to usefulness. As Amma stepped down, a man blocked the stair, not rudely, formally. He wore a suit that had met too much air conditioning. He was Regional Administrator Mensima, a custodian of memos that could starve a generator for a month. He looked at Amma not as an obstacle, but as the reason he might yet be useful. "Madame Serrois," he said, and then did something the cameras caught like a fish it could boast about. He stood very straight and saluted. Not the empty salute of a photo, the sincere one that makes backs honest. "We have been greeting clipboards," he said. "We will greet corridors." The minister, good at recognizing when reality is making better television than him, stepped aside and let the salute be the headline. Someone whispered, "Then salutes his real rank." The room heard and agreed. Even administrators carry real rank smash when they choose service. Over notice boards. Amma returned the gesture with a small bow. She did not keep the moment. She handed it to the people who would carry it farther than microphones. Matron Rita Ni, Lydia, Atto, Dankwa. She pulled them to the front. The cameras, confused by multiple usefulness, widened their frame. After, outside in the bright small wind, Mr. Dankwa waited near the fountain, pretending fountains were interesting. He held a brown envelope. "Madam," he said, "I wrote the memo." Amma took it, read, "Greet, ask, assist, night policy implementation." At the bottom he had added in handwriting that had learned to slow down for important corners, "I salute my real rank, porter of apologies, keeper of doors." She looked up. His face did not ask for praise, only for permission to keep changing. She gave it the way water gives itself to thirst, without invoice. Back at Amanfro Generaltes, the bench of Nightham developed a schedule. Mondays, on new staff, sat 10 minutes and read the proverb aloud. Wednesdays, security, told stories of the corridor at 2 a.m., the man who tried to break the bed, the woman who broke the silence, the teacher who apologized in 3 languages and taught them please in a 4th. Fridays, maintenance, tuned the generator, while children from the pediatric ward sang to it because sometimes machines cooperate for children faster than for adults. On an ordinary Tuesday key, Atto found a visitor berating a cleaner because the floor did what floors do when rain insists. He invited the man to the bench. The man refused. Atto sat with him instead. He read the proverb aloud. Care outranks badge. He replaced badge with Yao, wallet, and read it again. The man sat. After 10 minutes, he helped the cleaner place wet floor signs like little yellow sermons. At the end of the month, the hospital held a night feast. No speeches, just stews. Nurses, engineers, security, clerks, doctors, who genuinely like nights, cleaners, who should be paid twice, midwives, who carry entire nations at 3 a.m. They ate. They laughed. They told the generator what its purr now meant to them. Matron lifted a glass of malt and said, "To real ranks, the ones we earn by carrying when others are sleeping." Amma sat under the flamboyant tree, which dropped flowers like applause. Mr. Dankwan approached with 2 bowls of Adlite soup. He placed one in front of her, not as tribute, as partnership. "The bench is booked," he said, smiling. "There is a line." "Good," Amma said. "Let the wood teach what mouths forget." As the moon clocked in and the stars practiced their dozing, the hospital hummed. Nikus glowed like a shrine safe from silly gods. The oxygen plant breathed the long breath of technology, kept honest. The generator grinned, because somewhere in its belly belt and battery were holding hands. The drum in the porter's lodge tapped 3 times. The night understood. People went to their posts. The town slept, knowing someone was Suwon saluting the right things. A tale, let it be told. The telling is finished. The Brit Night Day will keep the lesson. If you reached here, leave your footprint for the drum. Liken to keep the corridor bright share. With anyone who has ever been waved away while carrying the keys, and comment with your City Plus time. So the next folktale finds your ward between one beep and the next.